when you're riding a dirt bike or dual sport or any type of motorcycle, the most important part of when you use the front brake is when you first pull the lever in. If you pull it in too quickly, this can cause the front wheel to lock up, and when it locks up, you lose traction, and that's when the front wheel slides out and you fall down. And why is that? Well, if you're new to riding, and even if you're practicing proper techniques, if you haven't formed a positive braking habit, then you're just gonna revert back to what you're naturally used to when you come up to an emergency situation. So let's say that you're riding a single track trail and here comes a deer on the trail, or maybe you're riding an ATV trail and a side-by-side or an ATV comes up and you need to slow down quickly. Well, if you haven't formed a positive braking habit, then you're just gonna stab at the brake because that's what you're used to doing, because all you're thinking is, I need to stop as fast as possible, and there's no time to think, so your natural reflexes just go to pulling the brake, and that's what causes the front wheel to lock up and you slide out and wash out. So that's why it's so important to learn how to efficiently brake so that you don't fall and get hurt right away. But you could be on the other end where you're being cautious because you know that the front wheel can lock up and you don't want to go down, so you aren't using the front brake hardly at all, if any. And while this might be safer for a while, if you're riding a trail that's unknown to you, and let's say you come up, there's a corner ahead and it's like around a tree and you don't know what's on the other side of it, and you find out after you get around that corner you're going too fast and it's another tighter corner, maybe there's a tree there or a cliff and you need to slow down even more. If you haven't formed a good braking habit to be able to slow down quickly, then if you're being too cautious, you're not going to slow down fast enough and you're going to hit that tree or maybe ride off the course and you could get hurt. So even if you're being cautious, it's still possible to get hurt, and that's what I don't want you to do. So it's so important to be efficient with the front brake, no matter what kind of rider you are, whether you're a racer, you're a casual rider, for a few reasons, because the front brake is 80% of your braking power. So if you're only using the rear brake, you're not slowing down fast at all. And when you do form a positive riding habit, you'll have more confidence because your front tire isn't sliding around when you're trying to brake, and you're able to stop before you potentially hit a tree or go off the course on a trail. And having good front brake technique allows you to stop quickly or control your speed if you're going down a steep hill while using less energy. So if you feel like using the front brake or either brake is really exhausting, then it's a good sign that you haven't formed a good braking habit. Or if you're a racer, if you want to ride faster, you got to be able to stop faster. Why is that? Well, if you can stop faster, you can accelerate longer and harder so that you can brake later. This really shaves down those lap times. So now, when do you actually use the front brake trail riding or any kind of casual riding situation? If you know there's a turn coming, then you want to start and do all or most of your braking before you come up to a corner. And why is that? Well, if you wait till you get to the corner, then you're a lot more likely to fly off the corner. So if it's a left corner, you're gonna fly off the berm or the cliff or whatever it is, hit a tree, because you got too much momentum. But even if there is like a big sandy berm, if you're coming into that corner hot with too much speed, you're gonna slam into it. You're gonna lose all your momentum. The suspensions are gonna compress. You're gonna get all out of control. Where if you slow down before the corner, then you can kind of enter the corner smoothly and then control your speed and roll out to the corner. It just saves a lot more energy. And before you enter the corner, it's important to know that you have the most traction with your brakes or just your tires in general when your bike is upright. So for example, once you start leaning the bike like this, your tires are going to have less traction, and you can shift your body position to get more weight over the tires for better traction, but you're still not going to have that 100% or maximum traction, because you never really have 100% traction in the dirt, but you're never going to have that maximum traction when your bike is completely upright as opposed to leaned over. Because when you start leaning over and you hit the front brake, it's a lot more likely to slide out. But generally, the more you lean the bike over, the less braking power you can use. So going back to my original statement on when you first use the brake is the most important part, and that is because when you initially pull in the front brake lever, that weight has to transfer to compress the suspension, which compresses the front tire. And when that tire compresses onto the ground, more rubber and the knobs are digging into that ground, which gives you more traction. So if you pull in the brake too quickly at first, it doesn't give the bike enough time to dig into the ground and get that traction, so you're much more likely to lock up the wheel. So that first 1% of when you pull in the front brake, it has to be very smooth to let the forks compress and the tires compress into the ground. Then you can progressively and quickly give it more front brake as you feel that there's traction. So even though I said you want to use the brake before entering the corner, sometimes you go around a corner and you find that there's another tighter corner, or just something that you need to slow down even more for. It's important to know that you should still learn how to use the front brake when you are turning. I remember when I was taking my motorcycle safety course, they told you that you need to do all the braking before the corner, and then you need to be accelerating throughout the corner, like once you start turning and leaning. And while this is in an ideal situation, that's not how actual riding always works, because sometimes maybe there's something in the corner, maybe there's someone in the corner, and you need to slow down while turning. Well, this is where you need to practice being smooth and testing how much traction the front tire has while leaning over. So you come into the corner, you do your braking, you enter the corner, and you find out you're still going too fast. Well, you need to have that finger on the lever and smoothly pull it in and keep braking while not using as much pressure as you would with the bike upright. This is all about learning control with your front brake, because when you have control of your tires, then you have more control and confidence of your bike. And traction is just one part of 3 steps that I teach you in my virtual dirt biker school to trail ride with confidence. And if you want to learn the other parts, then I want you to download my free guide. It's the basic techniques to ride with confidence. Get that at motocrosshideout.com/free lessons, or click the link in the description below. This is Kelly Fager from Motocross Hideout. Learn more, ride more.